Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to AUSOME. For those of you that don't know me, I'm David Vogelpohl. I'm one of the organizers, along with Kelsey Martin over there. Applause for Kelsey. Sorry, Kelsey. I bombed that for you. But thanks for coming out tonight. So this is definitely a nerdy topic, but if you're advertising on Google or really online in general, you need to at least absorb some of the information that's going to be in presentations like this. Like, the nerdier you get, the better you're going to be about the decisions that you make. Thank you for being brave and coming out tonight to tackle this topic, because I think you're going to walk away from it with something that you can apply to the work that you do. Before we get started, I do want to thank Affiliate Summit. They bought the food and pizza and beer tonight, so if we give them a round of applause. Sean's the organizer of Affiliate Summit. He's here in town. He used the very lame excuse of taking his daughter out for her middle school graduation. So try not to hate him too much for not showing up. But in any case, again, we're gonna kick it off, and when we're done, stick around. There'll still be some beer, and you guys can do some networking. So I won't take up the stage anymore. I'd like to introduce our speaker, the principal at Hoot Interactive, Mr. Miles Olson.
Well, hello. Thank you very much for coming out, and yeah, I'm glad I'm able to come and talk on this topic. This is actually one of my favorite things to talk about, bid management. And if you're in pay-per-click, you might be like me, and this is what attracted you to pay-per-click in the first place. The whole bid management, data management process that goes on is quite a fun game, and I think attracted a lot of people to pay-per-click. So we're going to be talking about understanding the automated bidding algorithms of commercial pay-per-click management systems. So before we get started here, I do want to poll the audience a little bit and just kind of gauge everybody's experience level, kind of know who I'm talking to. So just show of hands, how many people have some experience managing a pay-per-click search campaign? Excellent. Okay. A few of you didn't raise your hands. I will kind of warn you that this isn't a beginner 101 type presentation, so a lot of the stuff might go a little over your head, but I think even if you don't have experience in pay-per-click, this might be a good intro to kind of understanding some of the challenges that go along with it. I want to talk about kind of the goals we have here and why I'm going to be talking about this. And the first one is, if you're currently managing campaigns, you might currently be on a automated bid management system, like we're going to be talking about here. And if so, understanding how they work is going to make you a better user of these. And if you're not now, you might be in the future, or you might be wondering, hey, should I shell out the dough and go get one of these? Is it really going to help my business? And then further than that, once you get to that point, you're going to have to go through an evaluation process and decide which system to go with. And for all of these, understanding how these bidding algorithms work inside the black box, as I'm calling it, is going to be real important for you to properly use these systems and evaluate and purchase systems. And unfortunately, they don't open up all that information to you. And if you talk to the salespeople, you usually get some sort of magic answer, or what I consider that kind of fairy dust. Oh, it's just going to do this wondrous stuff to your keywords, and you're automatically going to get a 30 to 40% performance improvement. Okay, that's not the case, and typically it is important for you to know, because it's going to make a big difference in the value you get from these. Okay, so enough kind of prologue getting in here. And one more question I want to ask: how many people are currently using an automated bid management platform? Okay, we got a couple. Okay, and how many people have used one in the past but not now? Okay, so that got us a couple more. Good, so people have some experience in this. Okay, well, let me launch straight into this. I only have about 45 to 50 minutes, so I'm going to rush it a little bit, but I want to start with some disclaimers. I don't know everything. It's my first disclaimer. And just like you, all of these companies, the commercial system vendors out there, they have not opened up all their documentation to me either. So I'm going to be making a lot of educated guesses, but I'm not going to be going way out on a limb when I make these. They're going to be very common sense guesses of how these systems handle certain situations and challenges in bid management. Also, I can't explain everything. A lot of the stuff we're going to get into is really complicated. There's a lot of advanced statistics that goes into these bidding algorithms. I don't have time to explain all of that in 45 to 50 minutes, so I'm going to oversimplify a lot of stuff, not so much that it's not still going to be helpful, but enough to where we can actually get through something and learn something in under an hour. And then finally, really importantly, I'm going to talk about a few of the actual commercial vendors out there, and I want to make it very clear that I am not endorsing or criticizing any specific vendor. If for some reason it sounds like I am, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not. But I will be endorsing and criticizing both the use of bid management tools in general. Okay? So let's move on. One other kind of differentiation I have to make before going into the meat of this stuff is there's actually two different types of automated bid management out there. There's the rules-based, what you're seeing in AdWords interface. You can set up rules to automatically change bids based on certain situations. So I call this, if a condition is met, then we're going to apply a particular action. And you can apply this pretty much to one single data set. Whereas algorithmic bidding, which is what we're going to talk about, is a lot more complex and a lot more powerful because it's first of all going to calculate bids rather than doing these if-then scenarios. And then also it can consider far beyond a single data set and almost always does. And we're going to understand about that. Okay, and here is the myth that I intend to dispel in here. That if you plug a campaign into one of the leading systems' automated bid algorithm, your performance will magically improve. It's not the case. In situations, if used improperly, it could make your performance worse. So it's very important that you understand how they work and how to use them properly. And like I said, the goal of this presentation is so you can understand them better, so you can also understand their limitations. So what we're going to do, we're going to build an algorithm. We're not going to go into the details of it. We're not going to actually do the mechanics of the programming, but we're going to put some building blocks together. And as we go through this process of building an algorithm, you're going to see a lot of the challenges that all these other vendors have come up against and see how they've had to address those challenges. Okay, so before actually getting into the algorithm part, we have to make some basic assumptions about the search marketplace in general, because that's really the thing that's going to drive the performance of our campaigns. And these two assumptions right here, while you're probably going to look at them and say, yeah, no duh, are very important. They're critical for us making even the first step in bid management, and they're going to have some pretty serious implications when we get down to the end of this presentation and more of the complex issues that we're going to come up against. So talk about these. First assumption for all bid management, not just automated algorithmic bid management, but that there is a positive correlation between the cost per click you pay and the amount of click and impression volume that you get. We all kind of intuitively know this. Pay a bid a higher CPC, and it gets you higher up in the page, and you get a higher click-through rate, you get more impressions, and so you're going to get more volume. And again, if you lower your bid, you're going to get further down the page less. So that is an assumption that we're going to have to put in place in order to build an algorithm that's going to maximize volume, because most of these systems out here are going to have an option for you targeting a particular ROI metric, so maybe cost per action, return on ad spend. But what they usually aren't saying, but we need to note, is they're not just saying we're going to get you to that 500% return on ad spend that you asked for, but we're going to maximize the volume at that return on ad spend. Because certainly they could get you there and drive you $100 in sales, or they could get you there and drive $100,000 in sales. Volume's important, okay? So that's going to be important for maximizing volume. And then the second assumption, predictable behavior. That we're going to assume that consumers searching on a particular search term in the future are going to behave similarly to the ones who searched on that in the past. Again, we all intuitively know this. If we can't make that assumption, then bid management becomes arbitrary. Okay? Lots of different goals that these systems have that we can optimize bids towards: CPA, return on ad spend, maximizing volume, profit maximization. I can't talk about all of them, so the rest of this, I'm going to talk about bid management within the context of optimizing to a CPA goal, cost per action, cost per conversion, and maximizing volume at that. Once you understand that, it's going to be really easy to extrapolate the same sort of processes to other things like profit maximization, return on ad spend, optimization. Okay, so we got that. So let's talk about what I call the perfect bid. Going off into imagination land. If we had a crystal ball that could predict the future, and we could ask that crystal ball about any performance metric of any of your keywords for the following day, what would we want to ask? And I would want to ask, well, what's the conversion rate of each keyword? And why would I want to ask that? Well, I'm optimizing to a CPA target, a cost per conversion. So that's going to be a given. I know I have to solve for a CPC, because that's what I have to bid in Google and Bing on each keyword. And there's one metric that ties those two together, and that's conversion rate. So this is essentially, this is a mathematical fact. It's like rate times time distance. CPA times conversion rate equals CPC. As long as you know any two of these metrics, you can calculate for the third. If you don't believe me, go look at your historical performance data and you will always see that's the case. So we can count on this 100% of the time. So if we could look into the future and we could find out the conversion rate for every single one of our keywords tomorrow, we're going to be able to calculate exactly what we want to pay to hit that CPA target and maximize volume at that level. Okay, so just examples, we could go through keyword number 1. What's this conversion rate going to be tomorrow? 0%, it's not going to convert. Great, I'm going to make the bid 0. Why would I spend money on a keyword that didn't convert? Where if one, I found, oh, it's going to convert at 10%, I'm shooting for a $10 CPA goal, set the bid at $1, or we want to pay $1. Okay, and I did kind of put in parentheses here, this is going to be my first oversimplification. Calculating for what you want to pay is not the end goal. We also have to factor in a bid gap. You know, what you pay and what you bid are two different numbers. So I'm going to oversimplify and just kind of assume that we're going to pay exactly what we bid. Yeah, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I would say that the conversion, there might be some other factors as well beyond that. For example, position, right? The conversion rate might differ between position 1 and position 3.
Yes, and certainly an expected question. That a lot of pay-per-click analysts out there take a whole different strategy and optimize towards a position that they have found this particular position for this keyword performs better than other positions, so I'm going to optimize towards that keyword. Don't want to talk about the merits of one way or the other, but I will say essentially all of the big commercial bid management systems out there don't do it that way. Since we are talking about automated bidding algorithms of commercial bid management systems, we're going to talk about this other method, which is looking for an optimal CPC to pay and bid, rather than an optimal position bid to. So, okay, so we understand how if we could see into the future, how we can get our perfect bid. Of course, we can't see into the future, so that's going to create our first problem. But here's our key takeaway number 1. For understanding these bidding algorithms. And the primary goal of any bidding algorithm is to predict future conversion rates. It's not the only goal, there's going to be more. They got to predict bid gap as well. That was one I already mentioned. If we're getting into return on ad spend optimization, they also got to predict average purchase value or average conversion value. If we get into profit maximization, we got to predict the ratio and relationship between the CPC and the volume that we're going to receive. So there's going to be a lot of other things, but if you get the conversion rate wrong, everything after it is not going to be worth anything. And if you get it right, likely you're going to still get some success out of your bid management. So number 1, most important thing that they're trying to do is predict tomorrow's conversion rate so they can calculate that CPC that they want to pay. Okay, so we don't have a crystal ball, we can't see in the future. How are we going to predict that conversion rate? Our first challenge. And our second assumption has already given us a tool to do that. We've already said, well, we're going to assume that people searching on a particular keyword in the future are going to behave similarly to how they've behaved in the past. So here's performance for a keyword. I pulled 30 days of historical data, and average conversion rate for this keyword over that 30-day period was 10%. But beyond knowing that it was 10%, we can also see the daily trend graph here, and it typically hovers around 10%, maybe going 2% above or below that. And it does that pretty steadily. So it's going to be a very good guess for me to say, tomorrow, I'm guessing it's also going to be very close to 10%. I'm going to use 10% as my conversion rate prediction, calculate my bid with the formula that we saw a few slides ago. Okay? That's a very intelligent process to go through. Pretty much all bidding algorithms out there use this, and that is step 1 building block of the bidding algorithm that we're going to build. So step 1, review historical conversion rate performance of every keyword. We've got a first metric to work with. Okay. We're going to very quickly run into problem number 2. Long tail, low volume keywords. And I'm sure you've all seen a graph like this before, or at least most of you have seen a graph like this before. If your campaigns are like the majority of other ones out there, you've got a small number of keywords that are getting a really high volume of clicks, and you've got a huge swath of keywords that's getting a low volume. So this is a really good example. I stole this from another site, so credit to whoever provided this. But there's a lot of search volume on people looking for cameras. Okay, might not convert that well, but there's a lot of volume out there, and if you're a camera retailer, then you're probably going to get a lot of volume on that. Where Sony digital camera, 7.1 megapixel with 3 times optical zoom, not so much search volume out there. But again, if you're that camera retailer, you've got, say, 20,000 product SKUs, you're probably going to have at least 20,000 keywords for each one. You've got a huge number of keywords that are getting a lot of low volume that maybe combined make up for a lot of the revenue that you're driving for your search campaign. But the problem comes if you've got maybe this keyword, Sony digital camera, 7.1 megapixel, etc., and say over the last 30 days you got 1 click and it didn't convert. So the historical conversion rate right now is 0%. Are we going to predict that it's going to convert at 0% in the future? And of course we're not. Why? Because our sample size is too small. It's just like flipping a coin. You know, you flip a coin once, it comes up heads, are we going to predict 100% heads in the future? Of course not. We need to flip a lot more times. The more times we flip the coin, or the more clicks we're going to get, the better sample, the bigger sample we're going to have, and the better it's going to predict our future performance. So we have to move on to kind of this next step. We've got a base conversion rate prediction that might be really good and it might be really bad for every single one of our keywords, but we need to add a new metric right alongside that, and that is the accuracy, the predicted accuracy, so we're kind of predicting the accuracy of our prediction, of how well that historical is going to predict the future. And this can be done in a number of ways, and usually some sort of mixed approach is taken, but one of the basic ways that pretty much all of the major bid management systems will use is starting to look at statistical significance calculations. So, and think of this, it's probably been a long time since we've all been in a stats course, but you probably learned this back in your high school or your college stats course. Think of a political campaign when they always talk about, oh, the incumbent's heading into the election, you know, with 60% of the votes, and then they get the little asterisk and they say, you know, this 95% accurate plus or minus 3%. So we've all seen that. Excuse me. That's exactly what we're going to do with our search campaign. So I like to think of it kind of simplistically as a survey. Every click of somebody hitting your website, that is a respondent to your survey. You're going to ask them one question: will you convert or won't you? It's going to make for a nice, simple binomial distribution that we can calculate accuracy levels on, or confidence levels in this case. And so we could go through one of these statistical processes, which you don't even have to learn. I used a calculator that I found out on the internet to say, if my sample size is this, based on a population size, based on a confidence level I want to get to, what is going to be my confidence interval, or kind of margin of error for that prediction? So if I look back in this first example, I've got, you know, a keyword that comes through 10 clicks in whatever my historical data range was. How confident am I going to be, and let's say it's had 10% conversion rate over that historical period, how confident am I going to be that it's going to be 10% tomorrow? Well, this is saying, according to this calculation, that if we want to be 98% accurate, we can be 98% confident that that keyword is going to convert somewhere between 0 and 32% tomorrow. And that's not a very good prediction. Not nearly good enough to calculate a good bid, an optimal bid based on. On the flip side, if we have a keyword coming through as 1,000, we'll run it through the same calculation, plus or minus 2%. Very good prediction, and we know, yes, this one we can feel confident about. We can go ahead and run it through our calculation, come out with an optimal CPC that we want to pay. Okay. Do want to say this is another area. I am oversimplifying. They actually take a lot more into consideration than just the sample size. Daily conversion rate is a very important thing. The variance of daily conversion rate is something they also factor in, because we can't have the situation where you've got a very large sample size, but there could be a steady trend in one direction, which it's not going to, just looking at sample size alone isn't going to catch, but looking at the daily conversion rate variance will catch that. So they're going to look into a lot more than this, but this gives you a good idea of what that next step is, that we have to now have another building block in our algorithm where we've got a base conversion rate prediction, but we need to, right along with that, know what is, or I've written here, determine the accuracy of the click sample's ability to predict future conversion rates. And this brings us to key takeaway number 2. The primary value of any bidding algorithm is in its ability to optimize low volume keywords, because we don't really need its help for high volume keywords. That's simple. We can do it with worksheets and Excel. The tough part is the low volume, which is the bulk of our keywords usually. And this is what we need to rely on a bidding algorithm to help us with, and this is where we're going to get our value. So we know that for the majority of the keywords, they're going to be low volume. We're going to have these poor confidence intervals, big margins of errors in our prediction. So what are we going to do with them to make our bidding algorithm valuable, helpful? There's really only two things we can do. First one, we can expand our data set by looking further back in time. So we could take a keyword and we would say, well, this keyword's getting about 10 clicks a week. So if I look back 1 week, I got a 10-click sample. Not very good. I can't predict a bid off this. But, well, why don't I just go back 52 weeks? Why don't I go back a whole year? Now I've got 520 clicks. That's going to now give me a good sample, and it's going to be a really accurate prediction, right? Not really. Because now time is coming into play, and time is a bugger. Things change over time. Lots of things change. Consumer demand changes. The marketplace changes. Your competitors' bidding changes. Seasonality changes for almost every industry. We can't look back in time. We certainly couldn't look back 5 years and expect, gosh, if you're in somebody, think of your cell phone. Were people searching for the Samsung Galaxy S5 a year ago, behaving the same way they are this year? There's an S6 now. No, of course not. So we can't go as far back as we'd like, and this is going to limit a bidding algorithm's, if it wants to be effective, ability to expand that data set and come up with a more accurate prediction. Okay? So most of the systems out there do consider this to a point. So they will have some sort of adjustment to where, based on low volume or high volume, it can go further back, because certainly the really high volume ones, gosh, if we can get it really close and only look back in the last 7 days, the shorter time period we have, the better prediction of what we have of how the market's behaving right now. But they can't rely on this exclusively, and they really have to supplement with something more. And that is option 2. They have to consider the conversion rates of similar keywords. So let's talk about that. Here is some sample data for a widget repair campaign that I'm running. And as you can see, lots of different volumes here. Widget repair got a decent amount of clicks. We might come up with a decent prediction. But who fixes widgets? 3 clicks, 0 conversion rate. We can't use that. We know we can't use that. So what might we use if we want to consider similar keywords? Well, we could say, you know what? All of these keywords really are about widget repair. Somebody who's searching for who fixes widgets, they're searching for widget repair. So it would be a very sensible step for us to take, a very sensible assumption to say, well, yeah, I think it's going to convert like all these others. So rather than predicting it at 0%, I'm going to say, it doesn't have enough data for that. I'm instead going to consider and use the conversion rate for the group of similar keywords. So I'm going to assign that a conversion rate prediction of the average 10%. Okay? Very sensible. Almost all bidding algorithms for commercial systems do this. What are we going to do with the ones like widget repair companies and widget repair near me? Now, they don't have enough to really stand on their own, but they're giving us a little indication. Certainly, widget repair near me, 20 clicks. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's giving us enough to say, it doesn't look like it's performing as well as the rest of the group. So typically, the systems will put in some sort of weighting strategy that goes along with this. So, and this is definitely oversimplified. They don't use tiers like this. They actually have fancy statistical processes to handle it. But a sample weighting scenario we have here, I could say, if my keywords only have a click sample of, of nothing, I'm not going to consider their conversion rate at all. I'm going to go 100% with the group. Or the other extreme, if they're over 500, that's a really good prediction. I'm going to consider 100% the keyword's conversion rate, and I'm not going to consider the group. But then I can start kind of moving my weighting as I get more and more clicks to weight more towards either the keyword or towards the group. So sample weighting calculation down here, widget repair near me, had 20 clicks, 5% conversion rate, way below the rest of the group. Little indication, we're not going to trust it. So I kind of say, oh, well, I'm doing that. That's going to be the, looks like the 80-20 that I did right there. And so, yeah, 5% times 0.2 plus 10% times 0.8, 9%. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's really close to the group's performance. Our prediction is going to be close to the group's performance, but slightly lower because it's giving us some early indications it might not be doing as well. And again, very oversimplified. The bidding algorithms you're going to find in some of the big systems out there, every incremental click, they're kind of changing their weighting, and they consider more than just the actual sample size. Okay, so this is going to become step 3, building block. We've got a baseline historical conversion rate, which we can use as a prediction. But then, along with that, we decided here's how accurate we think each one is. And then based on that accuracy, we're going to use some sort of weighting strategy like that table I had in the previous slide to come up with a second, more accurate conversion rate prediction. Okay, and you might be thinking to yourself, I hope somebody's thinking to themselves, well, wait a minute, he just missed something. And that will be what defines similar. So I said, yeah, it's really smart. It's a really intelligent thing to do to consider similar keywords and their conversion rates when predicting low volume conversion rates in the future. But what defines similar? It's a big question. And this is where pretty much all the bid management systems, everything prior to this that I've talked about, they all do pretty much the same. And they all do it proficiently, to the point where if I had to select a system based on everything we've talked about up to this point, flip a coin. It doesn't matter. They all do it well. Here's where things get really, really different, because there's a lot of different ways where we can define what makes keywords similar. Well, let me go through the options. So 3 options. Option 1, structure. That's most obvious. That's what we all kind of leap to at first. But that's not the only option. I'm not saying that's going to be the best option. Actually, I don't think any of these are the best option. Option 2, user-defined portfolios. I'll explain these in more detail. And option 3, token terms. And let me get to our key takeaway number 3. Pretty much already said it, but the primary differentiator between any commercial bid management system is how they define and group similar keywords. And there is some big differentiation in this area. So let's talk about each one. Okay, similar, defined by structure. Oh, by the way, how am I doing on time? Okay. I need to keep track of that. Okay, similar, defined by structure. So again, this is kind of where our brain's going to automatically go. A lot of the big systems out there use it. I'm going to use one of the commercial systems, Kenshu. And I'm bringing them up mostly because they have a huge amount of the market share. A lot of people use them. A lot of people know about this system. So very good example of a system that has decided to define similar based on structure. In the Kenshu system, you can define your return on investment goal, your CPA, your return on ad spend, whatever it is, as a setting at the campaign level. So I want to hit a $10 CPA, but that is a $10 CPA setting at campaign level. It takes it from there. And it goes, and when it's thinking about similar keywords, it just looks at the structure of your account. So it's probably first going to look at the other ad groups, or the other keywords that are in the same ad group as each low volume keyword, and then kind of expand on to, okay, let's consider also a little from the campaign, let's consider a little similarities in match type, all the things they can glean from structure. And this is very, very good. It's a very good method, but it comes with some potential pitfalls. And the most obvious one, what I've listed out here, is structural groupings may not correspond with performance variations. And so let me go through an example of a campaign or a group of campaigns advertising printer toner cartridges. And in this account, I've got my toner cartridge campaign structured, so I've got a separate campaign for each brand of toner cartridge out there. I've got my HP campaign, I got my Brother campaign, I got my Epson campaign. And within each one, so here's the HP toner, I've got ad groups where I've got my HP toner general ad group, so that's just people searching for HP toner. I've got my HP toner model, so that's people searching for, I'm looking for a toner cartridge for an HP LaserJet Pro. And then I've got my HP toner part numbers, and that's for the people, you got it out here. Yeah, I think we're HP 5Q219-59S toner cartridge. Typically the ones that convert the best, also usually the lowest volume. So if we're gonna have a high conversion rates and the people looking for something very specific, low conversion rates and the stuff looking for something really general, just HP toner, we don't even know what kind they want. But we've let the Kenshu system optimize this based on similarities that it's going to find in local structure. So when it's predicting the future conversion rates of these high converting part number keywords, it's going to consider how those low converting general ones are performing in that prediction. And that's not what we want it to do, because they convert very differently. We want sums that convert the same. And if you looked over maybe in the Brother or the Epson campaigns, it probably would have a lot of similarities between the HP Toner part numbers ad group and the Brother part numbers ad group and the Epson part number ad group. So it's really these ad groups that have more of a similarity than the campaign. And so this is going to lead Kenshu's bidding algorithm a bit astray. It's not going to kill it, but it's going to create a little complication and lead it to suboptimal bids. All is not lost. We have a remedy. We can simply restructure our campaigns so we can start feeding the bidding algorithm better information so we can make better decisions. So first example of why it's important to understand how your bidding algorithm works, because you might need to restructure your campaigns and change the way you're managing campaigns in order for it to do its job better. Okay? And again, not endorsing or criticizing Kenshu. All of these have pitfalls and all of them have strengths. Let's get to the second one. Similarity defined by what I'm going to call portfolios, because that's the most commonly used term out there. But I'm going to use Marin as the example. Marin is definitely probably biggest in market share out there as far as installs for larger campaigns. So in these, they have an entity called a folder. In a lot of other systems, Acquisio, the system I use, they call the same kind of entity a portfolio. And this has allowed the user, you, to define how I want to do the grouping, but still based a little on structure down to the ad group level. So I can go in and say, I want this ad group from this campaign, this ad group from this campaign, this ad group from this campaign, all in this one portfolio. Consider those as similar. Okay, that solves a big problem we had with the structural based, where, oh, we had to restructure our campaigns. Now we don't have to. It's given us more flexibility. Now we can kind of mix and match, and that's going to define similar. It's better in some respects, but it's still got some pitfalls. The first big pitfall is, what if the user makes a mistake? What if you don't set it up right? It's requiring now the user to go make some decisions of what is best, what is similar, and the user might not make the right decision. And again, feeding the algorithm some bad data, it's going to make some bad decisions. Another and probably more serious pitfall that could result from this is it's not considering performance of variations associated with what I'm now going to call token terms and keywords. So now I'm flip away from the toner cartridge campaigns, and let's talk about this grocery coupon campaign. So we got a grocery coupon campaign that's good, sending people, trying to get them to sign up for a website that has printable grocery coupons. Yes, you probably read my blurb. I got one of these. Wonderful test bed for me to run tests, really low CPCs, lots of data. But one of the things we're bidding on here, we got a campaign, we're bidding on the brand name of every single brand you're going to find in the grocery store. And there's a lot of them. We've got about 4,000 ad groups in this campaign. And within each one of those brands, we've got things like Dan and Yogurt. Hey, if you're looking for Dan and Yogurt, you might be interested in Dan and Yogurt coupon. We've got Dan and Yogurt coupons as a keyword. A little more relevant and more likely to convert because, yeah, they're actually looking for coupons. And since this is a site with printable coupons, their best ones will probably be the printable coupons for Dan and Yogurt, or things that have both a print and the coupon in them. Tokens there. Coupon was a token. Print was a token. The brand name itself was a token, already segmented out in structure, but the print and coupon tokens are not separated out in structure. And again, if that is the thing, and that is, you know, as I did research in this, yes, that is what the big conversion rate variance was, whether those token terms are included or not. We're again going to be feeding the algorithm some bad data, and it's going to make some bad decisions because it's going to start weighting down these high converting print coupon keywords based on the performance of just general brand terms. Okay, so another problem, still remedy it. Again, the remedy is going to be, got to modify campaign structure. But this is going to lead us into another issue. I already said there's about 4,000 ad groups in this. Okay, so now we want to split it out to, well, they want a separate ad group for the ones that have coupon in them, but not print. And then we want another ad group for the ones that have both print and coupons. So now I've gone from 4,000 ad groups in the campaign to 12,000 ad groups in the campaign. Say I got 10 keywords per. Now I'm talking about 120,000 keywords for a campaign that might be getting 20, 30,000 clicks a month. We got a problem with this. I'm going to talk about it a little more. Aside from I call this overly expansive campaign structure. Aside from the fact that it's going to get really unwieldy to work with this, we're going to have some volume problems. It's going to hurt the algorithm. Okay, let me move, come back to that. Let me talk about the third method. Similarity defined by the token terms. I know of one commercial system out there doing this, and it's a very new player in the scene. Inside Vault is what it's called, and they are the first ones that I know of. Certainly, if anybody comes across another one, definitely let me know. Hard for some of the more established players to do this because it would require a whole revamp of the way they set up their bidding algorithm, so easier for a new player to take this on. But they're actually going one step further and doing a lot of natural language analysis within their bidding algorithm to go and say, gosh, I see the word print coming up a lot in these keywords, and I see the phrase, you know, how to and how much and quote for. And they actually are grouping all those and then checking for any sort of, in aggregate, variance in conversion rate based on whether keywords include all these different potential tokens or not. So very advanced, going beyond the numbers part of it and now getting into natural language analysis, so very difficult to do. And now they're able to find all these tokens for us. So, and I'm just kind of listing out what a lot of these tokens could be. So I've got kind of three categories. We could have brand tokens. So like in the toner cartridge, the brand can and might convert better than HP. So, and certainly bidding, you probably know your own brand, your own company, as you bid on that, it converts better. Okay, so we've got brand tokens, we've got intent tokens. They say somebody's actually looking to do something like buy. When they start asking for price, they're probably looking to buy, or more likely to buy, 2-day shipping. Sounds like they're in the buying mode. And then we have relevancy tokens. So like back to the coupon example. Somebody looking for organic yogurt, yeah, it could be a good potential target traffic, but it's more relevant if we include the coupons. Okay. So very nice that the system will do this. We're not completely out of the woods, and everything is not going to be perfect because we still have another pitfall. The keywords may not reflect actual search terms. And this, let's start thinking back at the beginning of this presentation. We talked about those two fundamental assumptions that we were going to rely on and have to use in order to make some predictions and set our bids. One of them was that people's behavior in the future is going to be similar to the behavior in the past. But keywords don't always tell us what the behavior of the people in the past are, or was. So this is, you know, actual data. I got rid of all the performance stuff out there, but for a educational institution that's advertising for their courses and certification courses for crisis counseling, and I filtered the search term reports, so I guess I could use a mouse here. So here we got, this is what the users actually typed into Google.
Mouse is not showing on the screen.
Okay. Is this going to laser it? What's that?
It does have a laser.
He's trying to emphasize certain areas of the screen.
Is it laser?
Yeah, it's a laser. I can see it.
You can see it?
It's reflecting.
Yeah, it's reflecting.
It's not a, it's a glass screen, so it's like pointing on the ceiling.
Okay. I'm going to point with my finger. I filtered down to 2 keywords just so we can kind of see what goes on here. And this is so common. So I got 2 keywords: crisis counseling certification, crisis counseling training. So if we're looking at the tokens, what could possibly be the token that could make a difference between these two? Well, very obviously, it's the only thing that's different. Certification token versus training token. So we would want to know, based on the performance that we see at the keyword level, does one convert any better than the other? But we look over here at what people actually typed in. So here's somebody, or actually lots more than just one, search for crisis intervention certification. Okay. Thank goodness I didn't make this phrase or exact match. I would have lost that volume, and that's very good volume there. So, but they matched crisis intervention certification to my keyword for crisis counseling certification. I say, Google, thank you. That was a very good broad match. But then I come over here, the next one, crisis counselor certification. Oh, that's almost exactly what I'm bidding on. That's a close variant of my crisis counseling certification keyword, but they didn't match me to that. They matched somebody searching for crisis counselor certification to crisis counseling training. And you've been in pay-per-click for a week, you're going to see this, and you're going to start noting this if you're looking at your search term reports. It happens all the time. If you're using broad match, it's happening. and Google mix and matches. So what all these bid algorithms are expecting and depending on is that we're going to be able to look at historical performance, get an idea of what user behavior is like, and use that to predict future behavior. But what we see, where we set our bids, is not reflecting the behavior of people. And it's not just this reverse where, why didn't they match the certification to the certification keyword? But if we look down, every single one of the rest of these is matched to crisis counseling training, which that wonderful system that now can consider tokens and do that natural language analysis is going to think, okay, it's based on people searching for something having to do with training or converting differently. But do you see training anywhere in here? Nowhere. So this is rampant. It's happening. If you're not on your search query reports reviewing those on a very regular basis and you're bidding on broad match, it's happening. And they're mix and matching, and the result is we're feeding every single one of those approaches for measuring similar bad data. So remedy for this, back to structure. You've got to change your structure around, and we're going to have to tighten things up. We don't want to go fully exact and phrase on everything because we're going to miss a lot of good volume out there, and we want more volume. But we have to do something so we're feeding behavior of how people are actually searching to be reflected in our keywords, which is what our bidding algorithms are going to use. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
If it's still being matched as broad match, then does it really hurt you so much if it's still getting the conversion rate, if it's still getting that click?
Can you repeat his question?
I didn't totally understand the question. So.
If it's the broad match, that means that even though it's not the exact term, it's still matching it with whatever your terms are, right?
But it means it's going to match with what Google considers a similar term.
Exactly. As long as it's still getting the conversion, then does that really hurt you?
Well, yes, it hurts the bid management because if it's matching a bunch of certification searches, and certification converts really well to a training keyword, then we're saying, oh, training has a really high conversion rate. People search for training have a really high conversion rate. No, people search for training didn't. It's just that Google matches there. And so we start bidding up. But now, if that distribution changes, and now they start matching more to actual training searches than certification, now your performance goes down, not because the behavior of the consumer has changed, but because Google's matching has changed, and now you've got bad performance because we're taking that future conversion rate prediction, multiplying it times our target CPA, and coming out with the CPC we want to pay. So it's misleading for bid management purposes. Did that help make it more sense? Okay. I told you, if you don't have a lot of experience with pay-per-click, some of this might be a little fast. But
just a yes or no answer. Have you seen in the last, let's just say 3 months, Google increased this behavior more than you have to last year?
It increased its behavior?
In regards to how they're matching these keyword terms in a way that seems
it's
to me like
getting crazier and crazier. It is getting, and I actually, one of the final slides I have is it's getting really crazy. So we'll talk about that. Anyway, this is getting us to almost the last step. So actually this has to occur before step 3. We have to define what we're going to consider similar when we're going to build our own bidding algorithm. So we've got our baseline conversion rate prediction, which probably isn't very good for most of our keywords. We've got our determining the accuracy, so we know which ones need to be weighted against the group. Now, what is the group we're going to weight them against? And then the weighting and coming up with now our new and improved conversion rate prediction for every single keyword. And we're going to go on to one more building block that we're going to use. And pretty much all the major bid management systems have this built in as well. Approaching optimal bids. And they all have it set up so where if there's going to be a big change, you might have your current bid for a keyword set at $1, like I've shown here, and it's predicting your optimal bid should be at $1.50. Gosh, that's a really big jump, a 50% increase just like that. Should we do that? Usually they don't. They have some sort of what I call a bid aggressiveness multiplier here that's going to approach that bid in steps and kind of reconfirm each day that yes, that is the right thing to approach rather than jerking it there. And the point of this is kind of smooth out the performance anomalies that could occur in a holiday. And, you know, who knows what's going to come on that's going to make conversion rates spike or drop. Okay, so smooths things out with this, and yeah, I've got a real simple example, and this is definitely oversimplifying, but you know, instead of going directly to a $1.50, you know, day one, I might say, well, let's start moving out to $1.15, and then the next day I'll $1.25 until we ultimately get there. So they all include something like this. The downside of doing this is it's going to get you to your optimal bids more slowly. It'll probably get more accurate because it's confirming day over day before it gets you there, but it's going to get you there more slowly, which means you're going to lose some money in the process. So the good systems out there that I like usually have some sort of throttle for this, to where the user can define how aggressive you want to be. Hey, I don't want you to take your time getting there. I want you to max it out and jump to those bids that we think they should be because I need to get to that now. Versus, no, we got more time, you know, we're more low volume, I want to pull back the throttle and yes, be more conservative as you get me to those final bids. Okay, so that's the final step that we have in our building blocks for a bidding algorithm. And then, yeah, and what I actually have the final step, you know, set the final bid and repeat it again tomorrow and do this over and over and over. So if we do all this, are we now, if we got our structure right and we have the tokens matching to the right keywords, and we're weighting appropriately, are we now going to get the most optimal performance and we don't have to worry about anything else? Of course not. You knew I was going to say no. There's a lot of other potential pitfalls out there. And I'm going to go through a few here. This is not an exhaustive list, but let me show you other ways bidding algorithms could go wrong. And again, because this is getting back to that, dispelling that myth that the salespeople are telling us that, you know, plug in our system, 30% performance improvement, that's what all our clients see. No system is that great, and they can't be because we got all these issues that we have to deal with that's going to put a lot of noise into our data. Attribution, that's the first one. And I'm just going to give a couple examples. A lot of people, including me for a lot of accounts, instead of setting up maybe the Google conversion tracking to track my conversion rates and conversion volume, I might set it up in Google Analytics and import the goals. Anybody do that? Yeah, some people do that. It's a good way to do it. In Google Analytics, when a conversion goes through, they assign it to the date and time that the conversion took place. In Google AdWords, they assign it to the date and time that the click took place. So if you've got one of those things that's got maybe a longer evaluation cycle, so maybe you're like a car dealership, and you've got people coming in and shopping, you got 10 clicks on Monday, and none of them converted on Monday, but they went around searching. 4 of them came back on Friday and said, yeah, now I'm going to come back and fill out that request for a test drive form, and they convert on Friday. Google Analytics is going to say you had a 0% conversion rate on Monday. Google AdWords is going to say you had a 40% conversion rate on Monday. Noise in our data. It's going to lead bidding algorithms astray. They're going to start making bad decisions. Another thing is if there's a situation where consumers typically make multiple clicks, and a common scenario here is I'm going to go around searching for the, a black Toyota Prius. I'm going to click on a lot of black Toyota Prius ads. I'm going to evaluate them all, and then it's like, the Southside Toyota, I think they had the one I was looking for. So you go back, you search for Southside Toyota, you click on the brand ad, and you convert. Okay, that happens pretty frequently. You can actually check that. They've got reporting for this. And in that case, what are you tracking? Are you going to attribute that conversion to the last click or the first click? Okay, because one is going to tell you that your brand term converted, and the other one's going to tell you a search for a black Toyota Prius converted. And if you attribute to last click, which most of them do by default, you're going to think that the black Toyota Prius was not getting conversions, low conversion rate, lower the bid, when in reality it was driving your conversions that subsequently took place in your brand terms. So ways things can go wrong. Lead quality is another. I got to use a real life example here because I recently brought on a client that is in the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning software space, and ERP systems are big. You're gonna buy one of these, it's gonna cost you $1 million before it's all said and done, license fees, implementation, training, all that kind of stuff. Huge purchases. Their previous agency had been bidding, and don't ask me why they were bidding on this, they were bidding on the keyword chicken hatcheries. This is software that does accounting, HR, finance, things like that. They're bidding on chicken hatcheries because one of the verticals they focus in is the food and beverage manufacturing industry. They were bidding on that, and not only were they bidding on that, it was one of their top 10 spending keywords, chicken hatcheries. Phrase match. Let me add that in there. So top 10 spending keywords for ERP software. The reason being, it was converting. The CPCs on chicken hatcheries was much lower than the really expensive CPCs on people searching for ERP software. And there's a lot of volume out there. And as I look through the search query reports, I could see, oh yeah, tons of people looking for, local chicken hatchery selling organic eggs. You know, what kind of hormones do they use at the chicken hatcheries? All these kind of things come through, and sure enough, lots of clicks, really cheap. Some of them converted. Maybe they thought that white paper was going to tell them something about the hormones used. They are converting, but since the CPCs were so cheap, it was showing this really good performance. So the bidding algorithms of the previous system was up in the bid. And causing that to be, one of the best converting, if you look at it from a CPA point of view and volume point of view, but lead quality is a problem because this weren't good leads. So this is not tracking far enough or not tracking the right thing. This definitely led the bidding algorithm astray. Budget caps restrictions. Take us back to fundamental assumption number 1. Higher CPC that you pay, the more volume you're going to get. Lower CPC, the less volume you're going to get, right? Unless you have a restrained budget. So if you've got a $100 daily budget cap on one of your campaigns, and you're spending $1 a click, you got bid, and say you're bidding and spending the same thing, you bid $1 a click and you're paying $1 a click, you got 100 clicks. Bidding algorithm is going to assume that higher CPC means more clicks. So you raised bid to $2, did you get 200 clicks? Because you got a budget cap restriction at $100. You actually raised your bid to double the CPC and you got half. Now you only got 50 clicks. So implications of one of our base assumptions that is going to really throw, and yeah, this is something we should all know anyway. If you're hitting your budget caps, you're bidding inefficiently, but oftentimes they don't remind you that when you're using the system, and this is definitely, if you're using budget caps to manage your budget, it's going to send the bidding algorithm astray. Deduplication method is another one. Real common, 1 per click versus many per click. You know, if you're e-commerce, it's really, you definitely want it many per click. If somebody comes in and makes 3 conversions in one day, and it's actually 3 purchases, well, you got revenue every time. But if it's lead gen, not so much. So if you got this set wrong and you're not looking at your, what I call deduplication, because this can occur in a lot more ways than just 1 per click or many per click. But definitely, somebody comes through and they fill out, I want to fill out this form down on the white paper, and I'm going to sign up for your webinar, which is another form, and then I'm going to fill out the contact us form because I want to talk to a sales guy. 3 conversions, it's only 1 lead. So deduplication is important. This can usually happen in a lot more technical ways. I mean, even in e-commerce, people can hit the back button and get back to that confirmation page. Oh wait, what were the details on that? And refire that pixel. And if they're not passing up an appropriate order ID that says, hey, this is the same order as before, and the system is not deduping properly on that, then you're going to have bad data. Okay, so just one example. I was going to get back to the overly expansive structure because this is one of the biggest mistakes I see people making, and I've seen this a lot. And I'm going to use one example that's in many campaigns I've audited. I see this where people have a strategy, or pay-per-click analysts have a strategy. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy, but I'm certainly going to say it's got some problems when it comes to automated bidding, where I want to duplicate every single campaign 3 times. And my first campaign is going to be all broad match keywords. The second campaign is going to be the exact same keywords, but now they're phrase match. And the third campaign is the exact same keywords. Again, they're all exact match. I'm segmenting. It's really good. I'm now getting know exactly how it will perform. If it's exactly that, phrase match that, or broad match that. The more segmentation, the better. And then usually these same advertisers, these same pay-per-click managers are going to do a lot of extensive segmentation elsewhere. So like in that educational example, they might have, the dental hygienist program, and they're breaking out also, dental hygienist training, dental hygienist program, dental hygienist, these are all different ad groups, dental hygienist school, dental hygienist education, ad nauseum, maybe 1, 2 keywords per, so they can get that perfect ad to go with that. We're segmenting, more segmentation the better, but you get in a situation, which I've seen many times, and I've seen this one very large agency targeting the education industry, did all their campaigns, every client, they managed the same structure this way. And so some of their clients were big, 7-figure monthly spend, huge volume, educational advertisers, and when they built out the campaign structure, they would have typically over 1 million keywords. in one account across all the campaigns. Maybe that worked to a point with the really big ones, but then it came to some of their smaller educational institutions they're running it for that maybe were only spending $40,000, $50,000 a month, and education keywords, $3 to $5 CPCs, so say $5, so you're looking at whatever $50,000 divided by $5 is. That's how many clicks they're going to get in a month. But they had it again spread over 1 million keywords. So we're looking at just a few thousand clicks that are having to be spread over 1 million keywords. There's nothing but low volume, long tail out here. And it's not just at the keyword level. I mean, 99% of the keywords got no clicks every month. Less than 1% even got 1 click, and most of them, that was it, 1 click. So we can't look at any keyword independently and have enough data to say, how does this one do it? But even going up to higher level, even at the ad groups, it was tough to find an ad group that even got a click. And if they did, 1, 2 clicks. We can't even look at similar keywords at the ad group level. Pretty much it was campaign or nothing, but the over-segmentation has now split up our data so much that this whole idea of finding something that's similar, we don't have a way to do it. Everything is low volume, and it's just segmented to the point where a bidding algorithm is essentially stuck with, okay, every keyword, I'm just going to use the conversion rate of the account, which is essentially what they de facto end up doing. Very bad. So overly expansive structure, huge pitfall, and one of the many things that can lead a bidding algorithm astray, and a very obvious one, sudden seasonality shifts. These all look back in history, maybe 7 days, a month, 60 days. They don't want to look back too far, but if we're looking at the 30 days prior to Black Monday, and you're an e-commerce retailer, is that 30 days going to be indicative of what it's going to be on Black Friday and for the weekend up to Cyber Monday? No, it's not. Okay, sudden seasonality shifts are going to throw another wrinkle in there, and that's not the only holiday or the only seasonal thing that happens that are going to turn things around. Lots of things. I could probably come up with a list of dozens of things. And what I'm trying to point out here is there's lots of ways a bidding algorithm can go wrong, lots of ways it can get bad data where it's not going to be effective. And so, again, that myth that plug and play, put it on our system and you're going to see these rockin' results, probably not. Okay, and here is, I can't remember who asked about that. Yes, you did. Yes, it's getting crazier. This is actual data that I did some find and replace, so there's certainly no such thing as Bob's Burgers is a cartoon TV show. So this wasn't for that, but this was for a recruiting campaign. A company was trying to drive people to fill out applications online. And the things I want to point out here, because it's a little crazy and it's not making sense, and it's hell for a bidding algorithm to deal with stuff like this. If you look at the keywords, let me point at the column, keyword column, every single keyword, there's a keyword name here that's talking about, Bob's Burgers and some sort of job-related term, hiring, employment, application, etc. Every single one. But they don't always match to something that has to do with employment. There's a number, I've kind of highlighted them here, brand terms. Somebody just searched for Bob's Burgers. Here at bodsburgers.com. Bob's Burgers, Bob's Burgers with no apostrophe. Okay? So they're matching us to that, where my first gut was like, whoa, 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 whoa. We only want job seekers here. Kind of reverse of most of them where you're trying to get rid of them. We actually only want job seekers here. I don't want people just searching for Bob's Burgers. They might be looking for, location, stock price, health facts, calories in their cheeseburger. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't want that traffic. According to performance data, I do. Because I look over here, let's look at the click-through rate first. These people coming, they have no indication in their search term that they're searching for anything having to do with employment, and yet, oddly, I'm getting really good click-through rates. 4%, 5%, 10%, 18%. Yes, I realize that, the volume we have here is not really big, but I've seen this account-wide, I've seen all the data, and it supports that this is happening over and over and over and consistently, that people are coming in on non-relevant terms, somewhat relevant, not relevant to job seeking, and yet I'm getting this really high click-through rate from them, as if they might have actually been looking for jobs. Makes me suspicious. Then I look over to the conversion rate column. 38%, 100%, 100%, 50%, 66%. Again, low volume, but when you stack them all together, which I have, they all convert just as well, if not better than the average, that includes all the people who are searching for job applications at Bob's Burgers. How is that? It's pretty obvious what this is. Google already knew about that person who searched for Bob's Burgers. And they didn't give us a random sampling of traffic of people searching for Bob's Burgers. They gave us a filtered version, a non-random sample. Google knows Google knows a lot more than we do. Okay? They know that, oh, this person was just on monster.com looking for jobs, and now they're searching for Bob's Burgers. Things like that. I don't know what it is. They know stuff, and they're changing the traffic they're going to send us based on that. And I know they're doing that because I flipped on Enhanced CPC. We are the ones who do managed campaigns, Enhanced CPC, you know about that? Okay. I'm giving Google latitude saying, hey, expand it out to other things that you might think might be more relevant. Change my bids around a little bit. So they're actually sending me traffic that is not a random sample, and the bidding algorithm now, forget that people's behavior in the past is going to be some of the behavior in the future. Well, that's not going to hold true so much because we're not getting a random sample. And we're now not predicting the behavior of consumers, we're predicting the behavior of how Google's going to match us. And if Google never changed, maybe we could come up with some decent predictions. Google changes. They're changing the bidding algorithm nonstop. They don't tell us about it. It's a big secret. It has to be. And we can never come up with a good prediction. So that alone is causing us some more problems to where now it's like I'm realizing, gosh, on this, break the rules. Now we want to go broad batch on an irrelevant term, and we're going to get great traffic. It gets weirder though in here. And the other thing I want to point out is our average CPC column. And this is where, no whiteboard. So there's a calculation that Google uses to determine the actual CPC you pay. So on these, I actually know I was bidding 30 cents. So the bid gap, I said, what you bid and what you pay are two different things. Could be big or small, but it's calculated, and I'll read it off to you real fast because I got it in my nose. It takes the ad rank. Ad rank is your quality score times your max CPC. So it takes the ad rank of the person in the position below you, divided by your quality score for that keyword at that search, adds 1 cent, and that becomes the actual CPC you pay. So it's based off the bid and quality score, ad rank, of the person right below you, 1 penny more than that. So what is very astonishing here, I'm bidding on Bob's Burgers hiring, and they're matching me to a couple brand terms here. But in this situation, Bob's Burgers hiring, I had a 2 cent bid gap, and they charged me 28 cents. Because another competitor with this combination quality score and max CPC came out to a bid rank that put me up there. But for some reason, that's same one, or probably a lot of other people that were trying to get to that position, were they not matched down here to the same thing, very loosely like I was matched, because I paid a 3 cent CPC. All of a sudden, we can't predict bid gaps anymore. This is going to give us no consistent data to look at to say, well, I know what the conversion rate prediction is going to be, but where do I set my bid? If I want to optimize and maximize volume by getting 30 cents a click, do I want to set my bid at $10 or do I want to set it at 30 cents? Because that's giving us mixed data. So this is, Google is getting weirder and weirder. They're doing it with the enhanced CPC, definitely pushing to have people go there, and it's gotten to the point in many campaigns, I've done enough testing, that you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't use it. I mean, a lot of campaigns I see no difference, but some campaigns I see this big difference. It's wow, I flipped that on, now we're getting more volume and we're getting just as good conversion rates and the same ROI. So good. And they're pushing real hard on their own conversion optimizer, and they're making it virtually impossible for us to do all that good segmentation to predict future behavior of consumers coming through, because they're manipulating the data before we ever get it, and they're not sharing the data with us. So yes, Google's getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and it's making it harder and harder and harder for commercial bid management systems to actually get you those awesome results that they say they're going to. Yes? Last slide, pretty much. Final key takeaway, garbage in, garbage out. So bullet points. Just remember these things. Campaign structure and match type strategies are of critical importance to your bid algorithm success. You got those wrong, it's going to be wrong. No single method of structure is going to be appropriate for all accounts. Keep that in mind. And then the corollary here, the only way to determine the best structure is to test. So please don't get in the habit of, oh, I learned it this one way and it's the end-all be-all method and I'm going to stick with it forever, because it might not be for different accounts. It might be for some accounts, but not others. And you need to keep that in mind, and definitely if your bidding algorithm requires some different type of structure, you need to move with it or use a different type of bidding algorithm. And there will always be noise in our data that's going to prevent a bidding algorithm from coming up with the perfect bid for optimal performance. And that's it. And this is just for additional reading. Other articles you might be interested in. A couple of them I wrote. A couple of them I just, one was actually an AdWords one. So, and by the way, email address right there. If you want a copy of the presentation, email me, and you don't have to take pictures. I'll just send you the whole deck. That's it. Q&A. Any questions? We're going to do this. Yes, sir.
In your bid management, do you find a bid management or any bid management, any of these solutions look for trying to think of the word. So, excuse me. So when you have, I'll see sometimes when you have accounts that are nationwide, and they have regional components, so like you're managing like a franchise, for example. Like you'll see cost changes depending on the location. And so I was wondering if any of these things take advantage of those, because like you might be bidding on, window repair. Like one of the hardest accounts I ever did was like window repair.
Gosh, I've done one of those.
What's that?
I've done one of those. It's a nightmare.
It's
Windows
a
installation.
Because like every term is like your window replacement or window repair, and it gives you like search terms for Microsoft Windows. So
yeah, exactly.
And so, but there's almost this like arbitrage situation that exists where if you are really good at nailing down the campaign locally to take advantage of keyword pricing changes. Like New York City, it's not going to cost as much per click. Mm-hmm. But if you set it up on a national basis, then you're pretty much paying New York City prices for the whole country.
Yeah. Good question. Certainly, performance does vary by geo. And now we have, and we haven't had this for long, maybe about a year and a half, of where we can have our geo bid modifiers at the campaign level. I mean, somebody support that hadn't been that long. I shouldn't say all that I know of commercial bid management systems are still trying to catch up with that, as well as the flurry of other bid adjustments that are coming out, because now we're, on display. We can make bid adjustments based on, demographics, based on age, based on gender, based on, interest, and now in search we got it based on audiences for remarketing. We got it based on geo. So many other things. They're all reeling from this. It takes them a while to catch up, and they're not there yet. So they're all scrambling to try to get what most of them are calling universal bid management, and they're not quite there yet. So,
thank you. Sent you an email.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
What are systems for shopping campaigns?
Systems for shopping campaigns. Okay, most of the bid management systems out there will handle, or at least the leading ones that cost a lot of money. They do also support your shopping campaigns, or formerly called PLAs. But usually only on the Google and Bing networks. I know there's a lot of others out there, and those you go to another. What are the big names in comparison shopping management systems? I know Mercent is one, but yes, they all handle it usually on Google and Bing, but nothing past that. Yeah.
Do you have on any of these that you can actually input your desired margin of error?
Well, certainly the calculators you can go to will allow you to reverse it out there, which is an option. But yeah, no, and this is, again, it's a black box. When you go to one of these, a Kensho, a Marin, a Quizio, whoever it is, you don't even, no, they don't tell you how they're going to, if they're even using that method. They probably are. But you don't get any choices. And they do keep it a black box because, you know, it's confidential. They don't want to share that with all their competitors and other people that want to get into the business. They worked hard to come up with that bidding algorithm. And also, it'd be a little much for, I mean, the actual engineering documentation would be painful to actually dig through. So, no, they don't give you an option to switch that around, and they don't really even tell you that they're doing that.
And how does Google's own optimization software, or automatic adjusting software compare?
Yeah, conversion optimizer. So I assume somebody's going to bring up conversion optimizer. So Google now, you know, you can put your CPA target in there, your return on ad spend target in there, and it's going to do it for you. And hey, we're Google. We know more, as I showed in that slide where it's like, wow, we actually knew these people that weren't searching for a job were searching for a job. So we can do it better. You should use ours. Certainly they have the capability of it. I have tested the conversion optimizer a good 20, 30 times over the last few years, and I get different results every time. Sometimes I've had one situation where performance went through the roof. It was awesome. We got all this volume back that we'd lost, and conversion rates stayed the same. It was wonderful. Most of the time, I don't see much of a difference, and certainly up until a couple years ago, every time I was testing it, it performed very poorly, worse than manual bid management. But here recently, in the last year or so, the more I've been testing it, I'm usually getting a little more of about the same performance, maybe a little worse, or it's sometimes a little better. But now it's getting close almost all the time to where it's never performing terribly worse than good manual CPC bidding. So, don't know, test it. Some campaigns it works out really well, sometimes it doesn't. Test. Yeah, no.
When using these kind of automated bid systems, what do you see? Do you see any effect on your quality scores?
I can't attribute it. I probably don't even need this. I can't attribute it directly to that, but what you will see, and this is another problem with automated bid management systems, performance anomalies will occur. We can be statistically certain that there will be a certain number of performance anomalies over time. So I gotta get back to that coin flipping example. If we flip a coin 1,000,000 times, there will probably be one time where we flipped it 10 times in a row, we got 10. Well, performance anomaly, doesn't normally happen. They will happen, and when they do, showing a performance anomaly of a lower performance, there is this effect that it has with automated bid management systems where they respond by lowering their bids and they get it down to a bid that is too low for it to now even be showing, and therefore no data comes in anymore, and it never has a chance to show that it actually can convert better over time. And these start to stack up because once they're segmented off as a low performing anomaly, they're stuck there. They can't come out. More time goes on, more of them get stuck down there. And you're going to see this trend where this group gets bigger and bigger of, hey, we're not going to name out volume on these keywords because they've been bid down, and then we're going to see that it's like, oh, one was for dental hygienist school, and the other was for dental hygienist schools, and dental hygienist school seems to convert really badly, even though dental hygienist school doesn't. Probably not. But one was bid down, so it never. Okay, so where I'm getting with this, even though Google says that yes, we do consider your average position in determining what's going to be a expected click-through rate for your quality score, they don't do a very good job. And I have definitely seen the trend where if you are showing up, you know, whatever it's considering page 2, or your bid is at that level, you're going to see, certainly, of course, lower click-through rates, but I always see it affects quality score. And to where you push it up, even though they're supposed to be weighting that in, somehow when you're showing at the top of the page, your quality scores get better. So take those two situations together. The bidding algorithms have this effect of, as the anomalies come in, shoving things down to low positions, factored in with Google's not weighting really well the click-through rate effect from the lower position. Yes, it'll affect your quality score. That was really a long-winded answer. I apologize. Any others? Does anybody get antsy? Should drink a beer, have some pizza. Okay. I think we're done. Oh no, one more question?
Sorry. So, do you do much? Do you find that these? I don't use any bid management software like this, but do you find that they work well with accounts where you're doing a lot of dynamic keyword insertion?
Yeah, I mean, I do it. Yeah. I almost always use some sort of automated bid management tool, and yeah, you can do that all the time. So
yeah, you write your own scripts, and it'll still work with all that stuff, or do you have to use?
Scripts for
like.
I mean, AdWords script. No, I mean, I'm using a commercial tool that I actually pay for.
Yeah, sometimes we'll like write our own.
Yeah, and yeah, I would, yeah. For those of you that have the time to build your own, that's really nice. But you know, I am endorsing commercial bid management systems if you can afford them. If you're a large advertiser, they're great because you're not going to build your own and catch up to what they've done. And forget the bid management part of it. And that's what I really was not part of the talk today. But the real benefit to them is in automation of all these other tasks that are going to take you a long time to do. Like I was talking to somebody before we started, I'm having to run a campaign without it. And just taking out my UTM variables for Google Analytics, I have to do it manually. It's a nightmare. I mean, it takes me, an hour or two a week to manually do these things in a spreadsheet, concatenating fields in, and oh, what if I forget and they get up there wrong? Now I'm sending bad reporting data. The big nice thing about these systems, better than the bid management, I think, is the fact that they've got a lot of little tools like that that are going to automate things, save you time, and now you can do more analysis. I forgot what your question was. Okay. Did I answer it?
Yeah, you did fine.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I think we're ready for a beer.
There's plenty of pizza and beer in the back, so you can hang around. Thanks.